Hey, hello everyone and welcome to Extreme Graphics Tech. My name is Angelo and on today's video I'm going to update an 1-year-old video that I did where I asked you the question of what was the next GPU that I needed to test in 2024, and it won by a landslide the 1080 in my Spanish channel and also here in the English channel. So because you voted and you wanted to know, then today we are going to see if the 1080 is still worth it in 2024. I have to start by saying that I am only going to test 6 games, and the reason for that is because I'm going to be testing games that I didn't test last year that are newer, and I thought these were the more representative AAA games since last year. So I'm not going to be testing Dying Light 2 or Cyberpunk or Hogwarts Legacy because those games were already tested. So I decided on 6 new games so you can actually see if it's worth it in 2024. I have to say that this is not a card that I bought for the channel as many others. You know, I always buying like new cards and things like that just to test, well, used cards, but cards that I didn't have to test and bring testing on new games and so on. But in this case, this was my own GPU that I bought like in 2017 or 16, I don't remember exactly. But the thing is that I had two 1070s in SLI, right? And at the time there was a crypto boom happening. And the 1080, because of the memory GDDR5X, I believe, I don't remember exactly, that was used at the time, it wasn't good for mining. Then they discovered a way to do it, but it wasn't good at the time. So I was able to sell my two 1070s for basically the price of a 1080s, because everybody wanted them to mine. And then I bought two 1080s, which I had in SLI. One of them I did a price. I gave it away as a prize for the Spanish channel, and the other one I kept it to keep testing. So this is the same GPU I bought for myself those many years ago, and it's still running fine. So as I said, let's first check the test that I did, the benchmarks, and then I come back as always with. So the first game I tested is Alan Wake 2, and I thought, you know, let's get this out of the way because it's never going to run decently. However, I was pleasantly surprised because I'm running the game at 1440p FSR quality, low preset, a game that still looks quite amazing at low, and yeah, the game was running above 30 FPS at all times in this area, which is the most heavy areas of the game. I know for a fact because I tested that there are other areas with this configuration that you're going to get 60 FPS. So that's how different each area in this game can be. So yeah, this is going to be quite a good experience, all things considered, that you can play Alan Wake 2 with a 1080 for like 8 years ago. So that, yeah, that's a very good experience. So instead, Starfield was a game that behaved a little bit weird. I was expecting a worse in terms of performance, but as you can see, it kind of looks like sort of pixelated and shimmers a lot. I know I'm using FSR at 75% and dynamic resolution scaling, but still, it kind of looks weird sometimes. I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, as you can see here, we're close to 60 FPS at this resolution, and as you can think, if you play at 1080p, you're going to get a much better frame rate. Also, if you can have or limited 30 FPS, then you can have even better graphics. So that would depend a lot on what you decide to do. Horizon Forbidden West is one of those games that I had to test, and of course here it is. And as you can see, I'm using 1440p again, FSR, balance, and medium quality, and we get around 60 FPS. There are areas that goes like to 52, 54, and there are areas that you can get those nice and smooth 60 FPS. But still, I think this is a win for the GTX 1080. All things considered, this is a game that looks really good, and it's quite amazing that you can still have this very good performance. And of course, if you play at 1080p, you're going to get even more performance and more quality. And if you play with dynamic resolution scaling active, then you can be sure that you're always going to have those 60 or more FPS, depending on what you're looking with the GTX 1080. The Last of Us Part 1, we know, is not one of the best optimized games. So as you can see here, we are roughly at 30 FPS at 1080p native. I'm playing at high because I want those nice textures, and with 8 gigabytes you can have it. And as you know, well, you can go to medium and keep the textures in high, and you're going to get a little bit more performance, but you're never going to get to those 60 FPS, at least not at 1080p. You can even play at 1440p with FSR active, and you know, get the best of the two worlds. So instead of a native resolution, you get a more higher resolution with some FSR active, but you have to still you know, target around 30 FPS, which is still very good in my book for the GTX 1080. Avatar, well, this is another game that the performance wise is not bad. We are around 50 FPS. This is without frame generation active, because with frame generation I can have at the same time at the MSI Afterburner, so you can get even better performance. We are playing at 1080p FSR quality on medium because I don't like low on this game, because it goes and remove the shadows, and that for me is a big loss. So and this, you can see how we are around a 50 FPS average, which I think is very good for this game. You can go even higher, as I said, 1440p, maybe FSR balance, keeping medium, maybe activating frame generation, and you're going to have probably above 60 FPS, 70, 75 FPS. So yeah, these are very good results, and something, you know, we can appreciate and have fun with it. And this is another game where for some reason FSR wasn't working at all. I couldn't activate it. I don't know if it was my computer, if it's a bug on the game, is it a bug with the GPU, with the driver, I don't know, but FSR was absolutely not wanting to work. So I just decided to keep it at 1440p native with the medium preset. And well, I don't know, it was working just fine. It was really at this quality. Of course, you have to keep it at 30 FPS. There is no way for this game to get a 60 FPS with this, but this is a very well known game that is not optimized at all. So yeah, I think all in all, the GTX 1080 is giving us a very good playable experience in all these games. Okay guys, so as you saw, I think the 1080 is still an amazing GPU. I know that recently Hardware Unboxed and I think Gamer Nexus made a video about the 1080 Ti, which is more like a more legendary card. But the one thing that is funny about the 1080 Ti is that everybody now is praising how good that card was. But that wasn't the case when it came out. Many people criticized it because it was very expensive, and you know, at the time people were saying that these cards there was no justification for the price, they are extremely expensive. Of course, it's easy to now, in retrospective, check the 1080 Ti and say, wow, that was an amazing card. Anyone who bought it, you know, had a great system. Because if in 3 or 4 years the 4090 keeps being the fastest card or anything like that, because there is a, I don't know, a situation where GPUs can get faster, then people will say, oh, I should have bought a 4090. But right now, the 4090 is not considered the best value GPU in terms of value performance, because it's quite expensive, right? But anyway, the thing is that the 1080 was a good middle point. It had 8 gigabytes of VRAM, which was very good at the time. And the performance was excellent for any game that came out at the time. Anyway, now what we see is that this GPU is still providing very good performance, especially in games like Alan Wake 2 that I wasn't expecting to have that sort of performance. And of course, I think people need to be intelligent with these GPUs and sometimes, and you have to accept the fact that you're not going to get 60 FPS because maybe the game is not going to run very well. Maybe you have a VRR monitor so you can go from 40 to 60 no problems, but if you don't, I think it's better to accept 30 FPS and be able to up the visual quality. Because if you're going to be limited anyway, why not take advantage of all the capacity of the GPU? So certain games you may play at 30 FPS. Also, even though I tested many games at 1440p, I think this is today a 1080p GPU. Okay, and in many cases, that's the resolution you should be using with this one, and you're going to get excellent performance. And honestly, if you bought this 1080 many years ago and are still using it, well, you got your money's worth, because this card, from my point of view, is still quite good at any game you throw at it. And I think it's going to be the case still for like the next 2 years. So the question now that many of you may be asking, is it worth to buy it? I'm going to say the same thing I always say, because it's hard for me to say, yes, go and buy it. To begin with, I don't know what the prices for this CPU are now, because I didn't have to buy one. I didn't go looking for the prices or try to buy one for myself to give you accurate numbers. But even if I did, the thing is that is different in every country. I may find this GPU here, I'm just making up a number, for $200, but then in your country, for whatever reason, it costs $400. And then you're going to say it's not worth it because it's $400. And so I think the economic realities of each country have to be taken into consideration when you say if something is worth buying. So that's why I just bring you the data, my general opinion, and so you can make an informed decision before spending the money. Because even if these GPUs cost $400 in your country, but maybe the 2070 for whatever reason costs $800, then $400 seems like a good deal for your country, which is not in where I live. And that's the point. So it will depend on the economic realities of your country and on your own, because maybe you have $200 to spend and you want, oh, I would like this, but there are other cards like AMD RX that normally tend to be cheaper, or you are willing to risk to try to buy something on AliExpress, like a 6600 mobile GPU, though one of those that now they're putting like on a normal GPU, which is, you know, roughly the same as this. So it all depends on your specific situation. But in terms of gaming, I think this is a GPU that is going to last for at least another couple of years. If you are clever about it, like 1080p resolution or limiting it to 30 FPS in some cases if you need to. So don't expect, obviously, to be playing a high or super high frame rates for AAA games. Of course, any esports game is going to run very well with this GPU because those games don't require that much capacity, and this GPU is going to be very good for that. So having said that, as always, I hope you like this video. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel, like. We are already at 1,000, and thank you so much for that. I'm very happy about it, and I hope people keep subscribing and, you know, just helping my channel grow to try to bring more and more content. Right now it's not easy, but I know you are going to do that subscription, like, and share it just to make my channel grow, and together we can bring more and more content. So thank you very much, and as always, see you on the next video.